Hello, my name is Mikheil Kapanadze. I am CEO of Open Banking Project. It's a banking association in Georgia. So before going to the topic of the presentation, I wanted to present the first slide, who we are in general, because what we found out is that we are often confused with the National Bank of Georgia. So we are not them. So National Bank of Georgia is a public institution, it's a regulatory, it's established according to Georgian constitution. So we are not, we are legal entity, non-entrepreneurial. We are established by banks, so they are our founders, and we are kind of collaboration and coordination entity expressing their opinion and so on. First, some organizational things, how all of this is organized. So who are the main stakeholders and who are, of course, the National Bank of Georgia is regulatory authority, and they are participating in this. We as a banking association in Georgia, Open Banking Committee is a very important entity. I will talk about this, and obviously the licensed commercial banks, because we are talking about the open banking, and obviously they are involved very much. In committee, it meets quite frequently, like once in 2 weeks. Consists of 8 people. One is the banking president of the association, who is the chairman of the committee, and the remaining 7 are appointed from the commercial banks. And some people are also participating, like myself as the Open Banking Project CEO, and my colleagues, some representative from us, from other banks, and obviously the national banks themselves, so they are also participating very actively, and they know all the time what is going on and what's happening, etc. While they don't have a voting right there, they, as a supervisory, always have their say, so if they don't like something, they will say it immediately, so it's also quite beneficial. And we have our path towards you, so Georgia, you know that we are Georgia is trying to become member of EU, and we are also trying to become member of EU by means of open banking. So what we are adopting is a EU directive, payment service directive, but we decided not to stay only there and go a little bit beyond and adopt some other things, and I will talk about this also. One of my main job description is to establish standard. And why standards? Let's talk about standard. Why we are establishing standards and what kind of standard we are establishing. Why that? As you know, Georgia is quite small. Even if for us it's big, and if we iron it, as the picture says, it will be bigger than many other countries, it's still small. Its market is small, and some of the global actors usually don't hurry up offering some services here. Some of them just, hire people and provide services elsewhere, so they just focus on the workforce. However, opportunities are quite interesting to work with Georgia, because being a small country, Georgia can be a showcase for many things, and you test a lot of things here, because we are consuming, especially when it comes to electronic services. And maybe, I don't know, maybe the showcase in Georgia is something like a new motto. We can contribute to Ministry of Economy for free. We are banking association, but it's for free, no problem. So, especially when we talk to standards, we are trying to stick to the global and well-known standards, because it's usually easier to vendors to provide some standard components, standard software at one hand. On the other hand, when we talk about open banking, when there is some large fintech operating globally, if we say that we have some unique Georgian standards here, they usually will say that, okay, it will take X amount of money and a month to adapt and like integrate, etc. While for well-known standards, it's usually easier. So one of the things we were thinking about is to stick to well-known global standards as much as possible, even sometimes religiously sticking there, so that everybody else is like violating the standards, but we are following it closely. So this also happens sometimes. Okay, now a little bit demystification, what we are talking about, what is this open banking all about, because it's still sometimes unclear. Traditionally, when you are a client of some bank, usually that bank provides you some electronic services. Like so, they provide electronic means of accessing your account. So internet banking, mobile banking, etc. Some SMS banking, whatever else, mail banking. But all these banking, so all these services are usually developed by banks themselves, then operated by banks themselves or entities which are closely associated with them. So it's not an outside actor who provides internet banking usually, right? So what open banking is all about is that it must be possible also for outside actors to provide some services, including some innovative services of accessing your bank account. So money stays in the bank still. So it's not about like closing banks and opening something new. No, it's just letting outside actors to provide some nice and useful, sometimes even fancy electronic services to you by using your account information, including payments also, some innovative payment means, etc. So there are two classes of services. There is account information service, which is just read-only. So for example, somebody can grab your bank statement, analyze it, and provide whatever insights there or whatever else. And second is obviously payment initiation service. So they can initiate payment from your account to somewhere else, somewhere. So what we did is that we grabbed some internationally known standards, which is Berlin Group access to bank accounts, XF2A, and narrowed this down. So made some strict interoperability standard out of it. So there are some optional fields, for example, with bank returns, we made it mandatory, etc. Why is this? Because what we wanted to achieve is that all banks provide nearly same interface, so it's easier to integrate. So if you integrated one bank in your service, then like our ultimate idea is that you just change URL of the service endpoint and you integrate another bank. So it must be easier than that. Okay, it's in ideal world, of course, but at least we are trying to achieve this. This is our ultimate goal. Maybe someday it will happen. And also what we did is that we started implementing this step by step. No big bang, because when looking at experience of implementing open banking in other countries, they are usually talking a lot about we are implementing, okay, how. No, it's easier to just start from first bunch of services and add new, and eventually you will have, so no big bang in short. Of course, there was also legislation stuff. Legislation was not in our responsibility, but we also provided a lot of input to the National Bank, and most of the legislation is also there. There are some missing parts where we also cooperate with the National Bank, so we are expected that very soon we'll move from this not so open banking to truly open banking. So right now we have this not so open banking, and I will explain now what is this about. So before letting providers, some external entities, to access your bank accounts, it became possible to let banks to act as third-party providers. So one bank can provide account access if an account is stored in another bank. And maybe some of you know, like Georgians who are using mobile banking for some banks, that it's already there. And this is because of open banking. But it had some hidden benefits, which I don't know, maybe some of the countries did not pay attention, but for us it was very important. First is that just providing service, it does not in any way mean that the service is operational or standard, it has a standard really, etc. So it's always good to have early customers who can provide the input about quality of your service, to say that, okay, your service doesn't work. So, and if they are just sitting in the next building, okay, maybe a competitor, but still people like you. So it's easier to test if the services really work, are high quality. And second thing is that it helped banks to put them in shoes of the providers. Because one of the problems in the regulated open banking models like Georgians is that usually what banks do in other countries is that they just provide services and they don't care about very much about how the provider will consume it. It's not their interest. Here, because banks also wanted to consume, not only give, so they were obliged to give away the services, but they wanted also to consume it. And what they started to do is that they were starting to look at the services from both perspectives. And it helped a lot, and they provided very valuable input, and we are very thankful that it really happened. So now we are prepared for outside actors already. And so this is just, so mandatory scopes are operational already. So when the providers come, we will be ready, which is good. And we also grabbed some prize. In GITI 2022, we won the prize of the best digital transformation of the organization of the year. And we are very happy of it. Few other things is that, okay, by the contrary to some other countries, so each bank provides service by its own. So we don't provide any central hub, so you don't go to the banking association and for consuming the service. You go to this bank, that bank, etc., etc. This is how it's done. And I want to share one very interesting and maybe funny story about how we were hunting for certificates. Since the open banking is open, so virtually everybody can participate. And security is still very important. We are not using some standard methods like encrypted channels between two actors, like virtual private network whatsoever. Instead, we have certificates, so both actors need to have some certificate and talk with each other in encrypted way. And security of those certificates is obviously crucial, right? So it's like if it's compromised, we are in trouble. So what we decided to go to the to highest quality and highest level of security. So this is EU qualified certificate. So there is nothing beyond that. So it's like most secure. Not only from technical, but from organizational perspective. So they indeed identify that you are really who you claim you are. They identify your rights to have such kind of certificates. That's quite a large procedure. But the problem was that the standard which was regulating all this procedure was for EU only. So not for non-EU countries. And we got the unusual and unexpected ally here, Brexit. So just because Great Britain left the EU, they found out, like standardization guys, that right now they have non-EU country who desperately needs such a certificate because their open banking was also based on that. So, and what happened is that they changed the standard because of EU. And of course we immediately jumped into the boat and said that, okay, now we also need this. And right now all Georgian banks, they have EU qualified certificates for open banking, which means that your security and security of your funds is truly protected with highest means of certificates and stuff like that. What we are also doing is that, okay, so what I said is that we try to go beyond all this boring PSD2 stuff and also do something new, which is a little bit unusual for open bankings around the world, but we still did it. And we have high expectations of the service. This is authentication and digital onboarding service. Maybe all of you know when you access some websites, there are usually buttons like login with Facebook or login with Google or login with LinkedIn or whatever else, Microsoft. Now think of the button, login with some ABC bank. So you click there, or CFD bank. You click there, you are redirected not to Facebook, but to your internet banking website. You log in there, and the website knows who you are. In some services, it's very important, especially when the service needs to have the tight binding between your digital identity and your physical identity. So we have this service already, and obviously the service uses the very same standards as login with Facebook and login with Google uses, so it's OpenID Connect. Because of the same things that we didn't want to reinvent our very Georgian standard, which nobody will support, and everybody will have to build the client libraries from the scratch. We didn't want this to happen. So the standard is there, services are there, and it's also ready for consumption. Of course, when you talk about, and now a little bit about what else we did, because all of these were done by banks. So what we did as an association. When you have more than one actor, and you know that in Georgia we had 15, 14, so quite large amount of banks. So when you talk about the standards, it's not always true that everybody will interpret your standard in the same way. So there is still risks that this party will read it this way, that party will read it that way. So what to do? How to tackle this interoperability stuff? So what we did is we developed the testing tool. So actual software which goes and tests each and every API, and making sure that everybody works, at least in the core workflows, everybody works the same way. And now what we are doing is that we are trying hard, and we will do this eventually, that we will put this in open source, so that all of you will be able to also contribute your test cases. So if you are angry consumer of somebody's open banking interface and you think that somebody does not adhere to our standards, you can not only call us and say that, okay, those guys do some bad things, but you can also develop the actual test case. We will review, and then it will be integrated in our comprehensive suite. This is the idea. So the outlook, what's next? The next is, of course, we want to help to each other, anybody who wants to adopt the open banking from the provider's perspective. We anyway work with banks, so helping them to provide APIs, but now we want to focus on fintechs to also start consuming these APIs. Next is that we want to make UX a little bit better, because first step, like providing at least something is already there. Now we want to make this pleasant to use. So this also. And third is that we have big plans regarding making this digital onboarding and authentication service as a universal bank ID, which is you can observe in some Nordic countries. So you can use your bank ID, for example, for accessing some public services. So why not? So we have ID is there, services are there. So it's just a matter of some regulations to connect them. So why not? And we have some bright ideas about the future, some open finance, some other services which can be done. However, it does not work this way. So it's not like a closed room. We say that, okay, it's us who will decide that, and we don't care about what community says. And no. So it's very important to hear from you what you want, what you expect. And National Bank already started process like this. So it's interesting to hear what the community wants. So that's all for me. We can get in touch. Here is our email. Here is our upcoming website address. It's not operational yet, but it will coming soon. It's coming soon. So thank you very much. And enjoy the rest of the event.